Her date didn't show up. What a loser. The words sliced through the restaurant like broken glass, followed by cruel laughter that made Emma's cheeks burn hotter than the candles flickering on every table. Before we continue, please subscribe. Anyways. She sat alone at the corner booth, her hands trembling as they gripped the menu she'd been pretending to read for the past 40 minutes. The reservation had been for 7:30. It was now 8:15. I heard he dumped her by text, another voice whispered, loud enough to carry. Right before he was supposed to meet her here. Emma's vision blurred. She wouldn't cry, not here, not in front of these people in their designer clothes and expensive watches, not in this restaurant she'd saved 3 months to afford one meal in. The black dress she'd bought from the clearance rack suddenly felt cheap against her skin, the fabric too thin, the seams slightly crooked. She should have known better, should have known that David wouldn't show, that men like him, charming, successful, from the right side of town, didn't actually date women like her. They just pretended to, long enough to make her feel special, before they remembered who she really was. A waitress approached, her smile tight with barely concealed pity. "Miss, I'm going to need this table soon. We have reservations." "I know." Emma's voice came out smaller than she'd intended. "Just 5 more minutes, please." The waitress glanced toward the hostess stand, where a couple waited. The woman's lips pursed in impatience. "I'm sorry, but..." Emma's phone buzzed. For one desperate second, hope flared in her chest. But it wasn't David. It was her landlord. Third notice. Eviction proceedings would begin if she didn't pay by Friday. She had $73 in her checking account. Rent was $850. "Miss?" The waitress's voice had gone sharp. Emma stood too quickly, her chair scraping loud against the floor. More heads turned. More eyes found her. More people saw her shame. She fumbled with her purse, desperate to leave, when her bag caught on the table edge and tumbled to the ground, the contents scattered across the polished wood floor. Loose change, crumpled receipts, a pack of dollar store crackers she'd been eating for lunch all week because groceries were a luxury she couldn't afford. Someone laughed, then someone else. "Oh my God, is she homeless? Probably couldn't afford to eat here anyway." Emma dropped to her knees, her hands shaking so badly she could barely gather her things. Tears finally broke free, hot and humiliating against her cheeks. This was it, the lowest point, the moment she'd been hurtling toward ever since her mother died 2 years ago, leaving her with hospital bills that had swallowed her college fund, her savings, everything. Ever since her father had walked away when she was 12, deciding that being a parent was too hard, that she was too much of a burden. Ever since every employer had told her she was overqualified, or underqualified, or just not quite the right fit, ever since she'd started believing that maybe she really was worthless. A hand appeared in her vision. Large, elegant, with a platinum watch that probably cost more than her entire year's rent. Emma looked up, blinking through her tears, and found herself staring into the coldest, most beautiful eyes she'd ever seen. The man was tall, dressed in a black suit that was clearly custom-made, his dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble. But it was his expression that made Emma's breath catch, not pity, not disgust. Something darker, something that looked almost like anger, but not directed at her. "Get up," he said quietly. His voice was deep, controlled, but there was steel underneath. A command, not a request. Emma's heart hammered. She didn't know this man, had never seen him before, but everyone else in the restaurant had gone silent. Every conversation had stopped. Every eye was now on them. He extended his hand further, and Emma realized with a strange, floating sense of unreality that he was waiting for her to take it. Her fingers moved before her mind could catch up, and then his hand closed around hers, warm, solid, impossibly steady. He pulled her to her feet with effortless strength. "Who are you?" Emma whispered. He didn't answer. Instead, he turned to face the restaurant, still holding her hand. His thumb brushed across her knuckles once, a gesture so intimate it sent electricity racing up her arm. "She's with me," he said, his voice carrying across the sudden silence. Not loud, but absolute, the kind of voice that didn't need volume to command attention. The hostess went pale. The waitress actually took a step back. Emma saw the woman who'd been waiting for their table grab her date's arm, her eyes wide with something that looked like fear. "Mr. Volkov," the hostess breathed. We didn't realize, Volkov." The name hit Emma like a physical blow. She'd heard it before, whispered in the kind of news stories that made people lock their doors at night. Dmitry Volkov, the man who controlled half the city's underground, the man connected to everything from luxury hotels to rumors of bodies that disappeared in the middle of the night, the man even the police didn't touch, the Mafia boss. Emma tried to pull her hand back, but his grip tightened fractionally, not painful but unbreakable. My usual table, Dmitry said to the hostess. Now. Of course, right this way, Mr. Volkov. Emma's mind was screaming at her to run, but her body wouldn't move. Dmitry's hand was still wrapped around hers, warm and inescapable, and he was guiding her through the restaurant. People pressed back against their tables to let them pass. No one met Dmitry's eyes. No one spoke. They reached a private booth in the back, separated from the main dining room by frosted glass panels. A waiter appeared instantly with menus and wine. Emma finally found her voice. I don't understand, she managed. Why would you sit? She sat. Her legs felt like water anyway. Dmitry settled across from her, his movements graceful and controlled. He dismissed the waiter with a slight gesture, and suddenly they were alone, the sounds of the restaurant muffled by the glass around them. Dmitry studied her face. Emma wanted to look away but couldn't. His eyes were gray, she realized, like storm clouds, and there was something in them that made her chest tight. You're bleeding, he said finally. Emma looked down. Her knee had hit the floor hard when she'd fallen, and blood was trickling down her shin. She hadn't even noticed. It's nothing. I should go. I don't know what you think. I think, Dmitry interrupted, his voice soft and dangerous, that I watched a woman be humiliated by people who aren't worth the dirt on her shoes. I think I watched her hold her head up even when she was breaking, and I think I decided that was going to stop. You don't even know me. No, his eyes never left hers. But I know them. I know exactly what kind of people laugh at suffering, and I know that you didn't deserve what happened tonight. Emma's throat was tight. My date stood me up. It's not. Your date was a coward. The way Dmitry said it made it sound like a death sentence. What's his name? What? No, I'm not telling you that. Emma's hands twisted in her lap. Look, I appreciate what you did out there, but I should go. This is insane. Couldn't say you're a criminal to a man who radiated danger like heat from a fire. I'm what? Dangerous, Emma whispered. Dmitry's lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. Yes, then why would you help me? He was quiet for a long moment, his fingers drumming once against the table. When he spoke, his voice was lower, almost contemplative. Do you know what I do, Emma? She froze. How do you know my name? He nodded toward her purse, which she was still clutching. Her work ID was visible through the clear pocket. Emma Chen, County Hospital, night shift intake. You work at the hospital, Dmitry continued. Night shift. The shift no one wants because it's when the worst cases come in. Overdoses, stabbings, children who've been hurt. His eyes darkened. 3 weeks ago, you stayed 2 hours past your shift to sit with a little girl who'd been beaten by her father. You held her hand while they took photographs of her injuries. You told her stories until she fell asleep. Emma's blood went cold. How do you know that? Because that little girl's mother is the sister of one of my men. He told me about the nurse who stayed, who cared when no one else did, who made his niece feel safe for the first time in months. Dmitry leaned forward slightly. I remember kindness, Emma. I remember it because in my world it's rare. And when I see it being crushed, I don't stand by and watch. Emma's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. You've been watching me? Protecting you, he corrected. There's a difference. That's stalking. That's reality. Dmitry's voice went hard. You walk home alone every night through streets controlled by men who would hurt you for sport. You stop to help people others ignore. You make yourself a target because you can't help being decent. So yes, I made sure you were safe. And tonight, when I saw you here, when I saw what they were doing to you, his jaw tightened. No one humiliates you. Not anymore. Emma should have been terrified, should have been running for the door. But instead, she felt something else, something warm and overwhelming and completely irrational. No one had protected her in years, not since her mother died, not since she'd been left alone to fight every battle by herself. I don't need protection, she said, but her voice shook. Everyone needs protection. Dmitry signaled the waiter, who appeared instantly. Bring us the chef's selection. Everything. I can't afford. You're with me, Dmitry said again, and this time the words felt like a brand. You don't pay for anything. Not here. Not anywhere. Not anymore. I can't accept that. I don't even know you. Then get to know me. He leaned back, his posture relaxed, but his eyes never stopped watching her with that unnerving intensity. Ask me anything. Emma's mind reeled. This was madness. She was sitting across from a mafia boss who just claimed her in front of an entire restaurant, who apparently knew intimate details of her life, who was looking at her like she was something precious and rare, instead of a struggling nobody in a clearance rack dress. Why me? She finally asked. Really? Why me? Dmitri was quiet for so long, Emma thought he wouldn't answer. Then, my mother was like you. Kind, selfless. She worked 3 jobs to keep food on our table. And when men laughed at her, when they dismissed her, when they treated her like she was nothing, his voice dropped to something barely above a whisper. I was too young to stop it, too powerless. I swore I'd never be powerless again, that I'd never watch kindness be punished without doing something about it. Emma's chest ached. She saw the truth in his eyes, the boy he'd been, helpless and angry, the man he'd become, powerful and ruthless. So this is about your mother? This is about you. Dimitri's gaze pinned her in place. You remind me that decent people still exist, and I've decided you're going to be protected. Whether you like it or not. You can't just decide that. I already have. The food began arriving, course after course of dishes Emma had only seen in magazines. She should have protested again, but she was exhausted and hungry, and her knee still throbbed where she'd hit the floor. She ate, and Dmitri watched her with something that might have been satisfaction. Tell me about your date, he said finally. The one who didn't show. Emma set down her fork. It doesn't matter. It matters to me, she sighed. David. We met at the hospital. He was visiting someone. He asked me out 3 times before I said yes. I thought. She laughed bitterly. I thought maybe this time would be different, that maybe someone could actually want me. But he sent a text an hour before we were supposed to meet. Said something came up. Didn't even apologize. He'll apologize. The way Dmitri said it made Emma's stomach flip. Don't. Whatever you're thinking, don't. I'm thinking, Dmitri said softly, that men who humiliate women need to learn consequences. It's not worth it. I'm not worth. Dimitri's hand shot across the table, catching her wrist. Not hard, but firm enough to stop her words. Don't ever say that again. Emma stared at him, at this dangerous, beautiful man who looked at her like she mattered, like she was something worth protecting, worth defending, worth claiming in front of a room full of people. I don't understand you, she whispered. You will. He released her wrist slowly, his fingers trailing across her skin. Give me time. If you've ever wished someone strong would step in when no one else would, when the whole world seemed to be laughing at your pain, when you needed someone to say enough, then you know exactly what Emma felt in that moment. That desperate, dangerous hope that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone anymore. But hope was a luxury Emma had learned not to trust. I have to go, she said, standing abruptly. Thank you for dinner, and for what you did. But I can't be part of your world. I won't. Dmitri stood as well, and Emma was reminded of how much larger he was than her, how much power he carried in every movement. My driver will take you home. I'll take the bus. At this hour? Through those neighborhoods? His voice went cold. No, you don't get to tell me. Emma. The way he said her name stopped her breath. Please, let me make sure you're safe. That's all I'm asking. She should have said no, should have walked away, but she was so tired, and her feet hurt in these cheap heels, and the thought of the long bus ride home through dark streets made her want to cry again. Okay, she whispered. Dimitri's expression softened fractionally. He placed his hand on the small of her back, barely touching, but Emma felt the warmth through her thin dress, and guided her out of the restaurant. The same people who'd laughed at her before now looked away quickly. The hostess actually apologized as they passed. Outside, a black car waited, sleek and expensive. The driver opened the door without a word. Emma slid inside, the leather seat softer than anything she'd ever sat on. Dmitri followed, sitting beside her in the spacious back seat. You don't have to come, Emma said. Your driver knows where. I want to make sure you get inside safely. The drive passed in tense silence. Emma watched the city lights blur past, her mind replaying every moment of the night, the humiliation, the rescue, the way Dmitri had looked at her like she was the only person in the room. They pulled up to her apartment building. a rundown complex in a neighborhood that made Dimitri's jaw tighten. Emma saw him take in the broken security door, the flickering lights, the graffiti on the walls. You live here. It's what I can afford. Defensiveness sharpened her voice. Not all of us have. How much is your rent? That's none of your business. How much, Emma? She met his eyes in the dim light of the car. Why? So you can pay it, so you can make me dependent on you? I've been taking care of myself for a long time. I don't need what you need, Dimitri interrupted, his voice soft but absolute, is someone who gives a damn whether you survive. What's your landlord's name? No, Emma, no, she grabbed the door handle. Thank you for dinner. Thank you for everything tonight. But this is where it ends. I can't be in your debt. I can't owe someone like you. I won't. She was out of the car before he could stop her, running toward the building's entrance. Behind her, she heard the car door open, heard Dimitri's voice calling her name, but she didn't stop. She made it inside, up the 3 flights of stairs to her tiny studio apartment, and locked the door behind her. Only then did she let herself break down. Emma slid to the floor, her back against the door, and sobbed, for the humiliation, for the unexpected rescue, for the way Dimitri had looked at her like she mattered, for the terror of wanting something, wanting someone so desperately when she knew it could only end in disaster. She cried until she had no tears left, then dragged herself to her narrow bed. Tomorrow she'd figure out how to pay rent. Tomorrow she'd go back to her life of just surviving, day after exhausting day. Tomorrow she'd forget about gray eyes and dangerous promises. But tonight, just for tonight, she let herself remember what it felt like to be protected. Emma fell asleep, still wearing her clearance rack dress, still feeling the ghost of Dimitri's hand on her wrist. She woke to pounding on her door. The morning light was harsh through her thin curtains. Emma's head throbbed from crying. The pounding continued, insistent and angry. Emma Chen! Open up! Her landlord. Emma's stomach dropped. She checked her phone. 9 a.m. She must have overslept through her alarm. She was supposed to be at work in an hour. I'm coming! She stumbled to the door, still foggy with sleep. When she opened it, her landlord stood there, red-faced and furious. You got some nerve, he snarled, sending your thug friends to threaten me. Emma blinked. What are you talking about? Don't play stupid. Big guy, expensive suit, showed up at my house at 6 a.m., said Emma Chen's rent is paid, 6 months in advance, cash. Then he said if I ever threatened to evict you again, he'd make sure I regretted it. Her landlord's hands shook. I don't know what you're mixed up in, girl, but I want no part of it. You hear me? No part. He stormed off, leaving Emma frozen in her doorway. 6 months' rent, paid in advance. Dimitri. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Emma's hand trembled as she answered. Did you get my message? Dimitri's voice, smooth and dark. You can't do that, Emma whispered. You can't just. I can. I did. Your rent is paid through March. You're welcome. I didn't ask for this. No, you wouldn't. That's why I'm giving it anyway. He paused. You work tonight? That's none of your. I'll have dinner sent to the hospital for your shift. Make sure you eat something. Dimitri, get some rest, Emma. You look tired. The line went dead. Emma stared at her phone, her heart racing. How did he know she looked tired? Was he watching her somehow? The thought should have terrified her. Instead, it made her feel something else entirely. She made it through her shift that night in a daze. Sure enough, at midnight, food arrived, enough for her entire unit. Her coworkers stared, asking questions Emma couldn't answer. Who had sent it? Why? Was she seeing someone? Emma claimed it was a grateful patient's family. The lie tasted bitter on her tongue. The gifts kept coming. Not just food, but other things. A new pair of sneakers appeared at the nurse's station with her name on them, the expensive kind that didn't make her feet ache after 12-hour shifts. A warm coat materialized in her locker right before the first snow. Her student loan balance mysteriously decreased by $10,000 overnight. Emma tried to return everything, tried to refuse. But Dimitri was like water. He found ways around every barrier she put up. And worse, she was starting to crave it. The protection, the care, the feeling that someone in this brutal city actually gave a damn whether she lived or died. 2 weeks after the restaurant, Emma was leaving the hospital after her shift when a car pulled up beside her. Not Dimitri's black sedan, but a different one. 3 men got out, and Emma's instincts screamed danger even before the first one spoke. You Emma Chen? She started walking faster. Leave me alone. Dmitry Volkov's girl, right? The man grabbed her arm, his grip painful. You know where he is? Emma's training kicked in. She tried to pull away, tried to scream, but a hand clamped over her mouth. They were dragging her toward the car, and terror blanked her mind. This was it. This was what happened when you got involved with men like Dmitry. You became a target, a tool, a weakness to exploit. Gunshots cracked through the night air. The men dropped her instantly. Emma hit the pavement hard, her palms scraping against concrete. More gunshots, shouting, the screech of tires, then silence. Hands lifted her, gentle this time. Emma looked up through her tears and found Dmitry's face, his expression carved from ice and fury. Did they hurt you? His hands moved over her, checking for injuries. Emma, look at me. Did they hurt you? No, I'm okay. Who were they? Enemies. Dmitry pulled her against his chest, and Emma realized he was shaking, actually shaking. They were Petrov's men. They thought if they took you, they could use you against me. Because of the restaurant, Emma whispered. Because you claimed me in public, I made you look weak. No, Dmitry pulled back, his hands framing her face. You made me look human. And that terrified them more than anything. Emma, I'm sorry. I never meant to put you in danger. I was trying to protect you, and instead, you saved me. Again, I put you in this position in the first place. His voice was raw. You were right to push me away. I should have listened. I should have left you alone. Emma's hands came up to cover his. This close, she could see the fear in his eyes. Real fear. The kind that came from caring about something enough to lose it. What if I don't want you to leave me alone? She heard herself say. Dmitry went very still. Emma, everyone leaves me, she continued, the words spilling out. My father, my mother, even though she didn't want to. David, every person I've ever trusted has left me alone. But you, she laughed, the sound half broken. You're a criminal. You're dangerous. You do terrible things. I know that, but you're the only person in years who's acted like I matter, like I'm worth protecting, and I don't know what to do with that. You should run, Dmitry said hoarsely. You should run as far from me as you can get. I'm tired of running. I'm tired of being alone. Emma, are you going to leave me? She asked. If I let you in, are you going to decide I'm too much trouble and walk away? No, the word was absolute, final. Never. Then I'm already in danger either way, Emma whispered. Your enemies know about me now. Running won't change that. So I might as well. She didn't finish the sentence, but she didn't need to. Dmitry's thumb brushed across her cheekbone, wiping away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. You don't know what you're saying yes to. So show me. Something shifted in his expression, something dark and possessive and utterly consuming. If I take you into my world, you're mine, completely. That means I protect you, I provide for you, I make sure no one ever hurts you again, but it also means you don't get to push me away when it gets scary. You don't get to run. Emma's heart hammered. And what do you get? You. He said it simply, like it was obvious. Everything you are. Your kindness, your strength, your fierce, beautiful heart that keeps trying to save everyone even when you're drowning yourself. I want all of it. I'm not strong. I'm barely surviving. You're the strongest person I've ever met, Dmitry said. You just don't see it yet, but I do, and I'm not letting anyone break you, not my enemies, not your past, not even yourself. Emma should have been terrified by the possessiveness in his voice, by the absolute certainty that he owned her already. But instead, she felt something inside her chest crack open, something that had been locked tight since her mother died, since she'd learned that loving people only led to loss. Okay, she whispered. Okay, I'm yours. The words felt like jumping off a cliff, like free falling with no idea where she'd land. Show me your world. Dmitry's eyes blazed, then his mouth was on hers, the kiss fierce and claiming and desperate. Emma melted into him, her hands fisting in his jacket, kissing him back like he was oxygen and she'd been drowning. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. Come with me, Dmitry said roughly. Now, tonight. I have work. I'll handle it. He pulled out his phone, made a call. Victor, Emma Chen, at County Hospital. Make sure they have coverage for her shifts this week. Yes, now. He hung up. Done. You can't just I can. I will. You're done living in that apartment. Done working yourself to exhaustion. Done struggling alone. He pulled her toward his car, which had appeared seemingly from nowhere. From this moment, No one touches you. You're mine, Emma. And I protect what's mine. Emma let herself be guided into the car, her mind spinning. This was insane. She was giving up her independence, her safety, everything, for a man she barely knew. A dangerous man. A criminal. But as Dmitri slid in beside her, his hand finding hers in the darkness, she realized something. She'd been barely surviving for so long that she'd forgotten what it felt like to actually live. And maybe, just maybe, living meant taking the kind of risk that could either destroy you or save you. The car pulled away from the hospital, carrying Emma toward a future she couldn't predict, toward danger, and luxury, and protection, and a love that felt more like possession, toward a man who'd seen her at her lowest and decided she was worth everything. She was terrified. She was exhilarated. She was finally not alone. And as Dimitri's thumb traced circles on the back of her hand, as the city lights blurred past the windows, Emma closed her eyes and let herself fall.